What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're taking a trip. We're going over to Papa's house. This is a new show that airs on CBS, and a day later on Paramount Plus. It does have audio description, and I watched the pilot. So let's talk about it. It stars Damon Wayans and Damon Wayans Jr., which is a brilliant casting choice. This is kind of like the perfect merging of two really talented actors, both who have done significant work on television, both who deserve to really do a show together and will have that sort of chemistry to bounce off of each other. And the fact that they are legitimately playing father and son when they are legitimately father and son should only help that. So what were the big questions I had going into Papa's house? Well, how do you flesh an ensemble out around them? How do you find people that are, is there a way to get people into this cast that actually fit and actually work for the rest of the show? It seems like Papa, Damon Wayans, doesn't necessarily have anybody tied to him. It seems like it seems like he's living with his son and his son's wife, and they're kind of struggling. She mentioned that she needed tuition for private school or something like that. She's like, when I mentioned that we needed to pay tuition, I didn't mean for this or something like that. It's just some line. I'm like, but do you have kids? Where are they? Like, because this feels like a sitcom that really should have at least a kid in it. And that was kind of what was missing to me. And it's weird because I'm not usually missing children in shows, but like when you have a show like this, you're like, how is there not a child in this show? Like, how is this? I feel like that's the weird formula here. It's like, how is there not a kid like all over this? Like, there probably should be multiple kids in this show. But that's probably the biggest thing I was missing in the pilot was, where are the children? Where are the children in this house? Like, you're missing out on the opportunity to have like that grandfatherly advice also, like to have like some young, like I would definitely do like a boy and a girl, and so that way you can balance the different sort of like advice, and because Damon Senior seems to be stuck in a sort of like a certain mindset from his era versus where his son is at. So to have kids coming up from the generation below Junior would be interesting in and of itself. Just that interaction. I don't know that it's so much like a parenting comedy for Damon Wayans Jr. as it is just a generational comedy for three of them, especially to have that third son there. So you have Damon Wayans Jr. and some kid, because I don't think Damon Wayans Jr. has a kid that's, if he does, that would even be ready for acting. So I don't think there's a Damon Wayans the third. But basically have that presence so that way it feels like there is, and have that chemistry there. But that's probably my biggest criticism of the pilot. Otherwise, it's two talented actors doing their thing, and if you like Damon Wayans and Damon Wayans Jr., kind of like what I said about Happy's Place, you're going to watch the show either way. Like, people who like Reba are going to tune into Happy's Place regardless. It doesn't really matter. So for Papa's House, there are two talented comedic actors here who are part of the Wayans family. It's a lead out of The Neighborhood, which is a great lead in for it. To have Cedric the Entertainer be the lead in for this show, and to have a show that's established and has been running for 7 seasons, I feel like this is taking the place of Bob Hart's Abishola. So if there is any benefit to lead in, lead out anymore, this makes a hell of a lot more sense than George and Mandy's being teamed up with ghosts which is now like a multicam in front of a single cam, and they have nothing in common. Those two shows could not have anything less in common, and will have no overlap in audience, except people who literally fell asleep and the remote is they didn't change channels. I mean, nothing. There's not a single damn thing in common with those shows. This at least feels like, yeah, I can see why this is programmed there. It's the same thing Abbott Elementary right now is feeling the hurt of being paired with, like, it's following the Golden Bachelor, and then it's like leading into something called Scamanda, which is like not even a sitcom, it's like a reality show. It's like a half-hour docu-series, and they're like, oh, Abbott Elementary's ratings are down. And it's like, yeah, of course they are. Are you fucking stupid? Like, like what the, like, if somebody had told, if I was working at ABC and somebody was like, well, this is what our fall lineup looks like, I'd have been like, can we just bring back like any canceled series for like 5 episodes? Can we, what is Scamanda and how do we not need it? You know, put something else there. Other than, I don't know, find a British show or something to put with Abbott Elementary, so that way it's not like, it feels like it's just floating in this like land of nothing. And I think people at that point, it's like, do you even care what the ratings are, or are you just looking at streaming because you're just looking at your how many people are looking at it a day later? So this has a great lead-in. It's like moving Matlock to pair it with Elizabeth. It's like that feels like a logical choice. And we don't make a lot of logical choices anymore because we're so beholden to streaming numbers, like Live plus 3, Live plus 7, even the 30-day out one they do, to see how much a show has grown word of mouth over the course of 30 days, sort of like how the ratings for The Penguin have gone up with every single episode. It's because word of mouth has trended that, and that's rare for a show to have dramatic increases in ratings with every single episode. So yeah, and that's live airing for Penguin too, by the way. That's the closest to live I think that they can get for that. So Papa's House, he's playing this DJ, which reminded me of Frasier, and he's paired with, he's answering these calls, and he's trying to spin some records. He's like a hip hop DJ. His producer doesn't feel at all like he should be a hip hop producer at all. He's got the token LGBT character for the show is his producer, which as the LGBT film critic, I was like, I don't know that like, I feel like you feel like you need to have the representation here. I'm not sure this is the character to do it with. And his dynamic with Damon is not great. And I think they missed an opportunity to have a voice in the room in Papa's House that actually made sense. So in the actual show, he gets a phone call from this psychologist, and they argue over the phone, and he's like, she's like, why do you always make a conversation with a woman always about sex? And he just keeps making jokes. And I feel like he won every single conversation, and they're still like, nope, you're going to take this lame character that's going to drag down the series, who I didn't like. And it's not that I don't like women. This character didn't feel right for what they were asking her to do. And there's something to be said about polar opposites, but there's also something to be said about like, make it make sense, which is like, this is also like a hip hop oriented show, and you're putting somebody who, even though she's like, oh, I grew up listening to you, she at no point is ever challenged on her knowledge of hip hop, and she feels like the complete opposite of that. She feels like she listens to Celine Dion records all day long. Just like she has no knowledge of anything that she is going to have to, be hosting around. She's like, ooh, can I pick a record? And it's like, this is not your culture. The funny thing is, I was thinking about this from an audio description perspective. I don't even know the actress, so I don't know if she's white or black, because the show actually didn't do that. It didn't label anybody. It did this sort of like colorblind approach, which I thought was interesting, because usually we get that with shows that are white led cast. It's defaulting. They usually point out only when it's, and the only time you ever get substantial audio description is when it's predominantly a black cast, and then they actually go into it. This time they didn't do it. They treated it like your average, uh, sort of like white-led sitcom where nobody's mentioned, and you just have to guess who everybody is. And so based on that, she doesn't sound like anybody who belongs in anything remotely related to hip hop, regardless of whether or not you want a female or a psychologist. Find someone who's appropriate for the thing and isn't sort of like, feels like cultural appropriation. Like they're sitting there and they're just like, I can't wait to get down to some tunes. Like, that's gonna run real thin real fast. And I feel like if there's a character that's gonna bring down the show, it's gonna be her, because she's a one note joke. It was funny for the premiere, and I thought he was gonna get rid of her, but then they like sat her down, and they're like, "Nope, we're making this happen." And I'm like, "No, that's a mistake." Like, first of all, A, where are the children? B, get rid of her. You can have a female. I'm not saying that the whole general idea of what they wanted to do is wrong. And I'm not even saying it has to be a black female, but you need to find somebody who feels like like they actually came from the hip hop culture, like they actually are understanding what it is. When she says she listens to Papa's House, it'd be like if I was like, yeah, I regularly listen to the Breakfast Club. You look at me and you'd be like, no, you don't. Fuck you. You feel like, no, you do not look like somebody who listens to the Breakfast Club. You know, I don't think I'm gonna get an invite to co-host the Breakfast Club. It's not like they're gonna be like, oh, you know what? They're not gonna tell like Charlemagne, like, oh, by the way, uh, yeah, we really want you to have a disabled voice on the panel, and we found this blind YouTuber, and he's on your panel now. And then suddenly I'm like commenting on black culture. Like, what the? That's never gonna fucking happen. So, like, and it feels like that. It feels like even if this is a black actress, she feels like the complete opposite of anything that the show is about. Like, just the wrong thing. It would be like, even for me, uh, like, I don't know, what put me on, what would I not be good on? I'm trying to think of like, like a thing for cowboys, you know, like, do I look like somebody who knows something about horses? You're like, well, we really wanted to expand your horizons, and we got this. He's LGBT and blind, so we're really getting our diversity quotient in here. You're stuck with him now. Does he know anything about cowboys and horses? No, he doesn't. He knows nothing. Why is he here? You know, it's like they did not make it seem like she knew anything about what she was going to be speaking about. She made it seem like the only reason she was there is because she was offended at how she talks about women. And then she tries to rope it into, you seem so jaded now. I used to listen to you and love to see. Now you're just angry at everything. Ever since your divorce, you know, you just hate women. And it's like, but you could have done that with a woman who actually also feels like they should be where they are. You know, like, not only does he have a producer who feels like he's wrong for the show, but he also has, now he has a co-host who feels like, where the fuck did she come from? Like, so, yeah, it's not a perfect pilot, but it's something that I'll probably check out again. I could see that joke wearing really thin, and I feel like children are suddenly going to walk in the next episode. I feel like they made a pilot for Papa's House, and they were like, well, we'll mention the children, and then we'll cast them later, you know? Like, they were like, let's not cast them for the pilot. Let's keep it really sort of simple for the pilot. So let's wait till CBS picks us up to series, and then go from there. And then they got picked up to series, and then like, okay, we'll cast the children now. So I feel like in episode 2, suddenly there's gonna be like 3 kids like running down the stairs and be like, hey, we were here the whole time. What's up? We were just we were at camp last episode. So I think that problem will solve itself. So mention the children, but don't over mention them. Don't give too many clues as to what the children may or may not be doing. Don't say, oh, so-and-so has sports and athlete and they're in dance, and oh, we got to worry about this one because he's doing, you know, don't give too many details. Just casually hint at tuition, you know, so that you have a child somewhere of some age, of some gender. This is something. Something else lives in that house. We don't know what it is, but it shall be revealed in the second episode. Anyway, I like this. I think it's a better pilot than Happy's Place, but it's still not great. I mean, it's still something where it's like I could tweak this. In terms of pilots, now that I think we're pretty much, I don't know that, is there anything else that the networks have left to premiere? I don't think so, at least for the fall season. I would give the pilot award probably to Matlock, which really introduced a strong premise, concept, character, and a twist at the end. And that show, as of me recording this already, we haven't even gotten to episode 3 yet. I'm dropping this before episode 3 even premieres. It's already been renewed for a second season, and that's how you do it. That is how you knock it out of the park. You get a cast together, you come up with a great premise, a great plot, a great reason to be there, you sell yourself to your audience, and it even moved nights. It went from Sunday to Thursday, and it still is doing so well and has so much buzz that it was able to move after one episode to another night and time. And, and it got picked up super quick. Now, some of the first early pickups do not always have the longest longevity. Prodigal Son, I believe, was the first renewal of its season, and that only ran for 2 seasons. And I did mention, I was like, I don't know how long this specific Matlock premise is going to work, because she seems to have a very specific reason for being there, so they're going to have to find a reason for her to be there for more than a season. But, anyway, check out Papa's House. I'm a big fan of the Wayans, of Damon and Damon. And I'm glad that CBS picked this up to series. It's way better than George and Mandy. It actually has 2 people who understand how to be in a sitcom, who understand that they're in a multicam. It's not clunky. It's not people who are straining to be there. It's not perfect, but yeah, I think the main core of it is interesting and worth watching. So I'm gonna give Papa's House. I'm gonna give it a B-. Imperfect, but not unwatchable. So interestingly enough, the only audio description track I've heard coming out of CBS that wasn't constantly reminding me I could turn it off. So I don't know if that's just like because of the pilot, if they forgot to do that, but I love that. I love so much for not being reminded that like I'm somehow inconveniencing people who accidentally are on the secondary audio channel and have no idea what they're doing with their television sets anymore. And like, how did I get to secondary? I don't know, but the TV's talking to me. It's possessed. Luckily, I'm on CBS, and they'll tell me how I can get off of it. Thank you, CBS, for saving my life. No other channel does that. Every other channel just accepts the fact that if you're on secondary audio, you're on there for a reason. Leave it. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you guys on the other side.